We're Black Dice Gaming.
So, we've already talked about the Barbarian in Black Dice Basics, and I figured I'd bring my buddy Tony because we love this next one. We're going to talk about the Bard. Now, just like the Barbarian was 2 different videos, this one's going to be 3, and we'll explain it because obviously you're going to have the normal stuff that we'll talk about, then we'll talk about the subclasses, which are colleges for bards, and we'll also talk about spells. So stay tuned, we're going to learn quite a bit on this one. So let's go ahead and get started, basically. The Barbarian, the Bard, as I talked about the Barbarian before, has a 1d8 hit dice. So that means when you go up in level, you're adding 1d8 plus your con to go to your next level.
Yeah, so this is kind of, in the average. He's not particularly tanky, he's not squishy, he's not, like a wizard, but
it definitely helps. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it's the Bard is kind of this generalist class in a lot of ways, so this kind of, just really is in that thing.
And in the aspect of the whole light armor, the spells, light armor takes its effect. So the proficiencies for a bard is basically light armor, simple weapons, hand crossbows, long short swords, rapiers. Things that I guess are light in category and have a little finesse to it, which makes sense. Plus you get 3 instruments. That's right, you don't have to just twang the guitar. You can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, you just get them as part of your gear, your starting gear.
Now, being that you like bards, what have you thought of?
There's so many to choose from. So, we may be seeing a bard that plays violin here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think, depending on what kind of setting you're in, maybe even electric guitar, like amp setup. Why not, So
that's great.
So many different ways that you can go about it, but I don't see enough drums. We need some more drummers. That's what we need.
Like a drum line? Like a basic...
like a little drummer, a little, snap
little
too.
drummer
I think
boy.
that's definitely not explored enough.
Oh, that'd be great for a Christmas one-shot, DMs. You can actually make a bard that's a little drummer boy. It's fantastic.
Oh, good lord.
So, the saving throws that you're proficient in is dexterity and charisma, which once again really tells the story of a bard. A little fast, a little shifty, but that charisma is really, come on, bard walks into the bar. That's like the beginning of every Dungeons and Dragons joke.
Pretty much.
The skill proficiency, instead of having a list that you have to pick from for this one, you could just pick any 3. That's great. It makes it very versatile. Kind of like the variant human, which we will talk about in the future when we start talking about races. It definitely amps that up. So, at first...
You just have so many options, man. I think the biggest theme about the bard is that you just have really so much creativity and so many different avenues you can explore.
And, yeah, it's just like the rogue. Literally the rogue pretty much... I think bard, the way it is like a sexy singing rogue.
For the mage classes, in a lot of ways,
With a little bit of spells. Yeah, a little bit of spells tied. Yeah, you're right. A little spells tied into that. So, at first level, when you start off as a bard, you're going to gain spell casting. You're a spellcaster to begin with. That's obvious. That's why we're going to be in 3 different videos. You're also going to have spells known. So you're not having it from a book. You're not preparing the spells. It's more of like it comes from inside you.
Yeah, their spell casting is very similar to a sorcerer, and the nice thing is that you don't need any components or anything like that. As long as you have your instrument, you're not silenced, so you can talk or say whatever, or paralyzed, so you can't play your instrument, you're fine.
God, that would suck. Really. So you start off with a small amount of spells in the beginning, and they increase further as you take a look on a chart in your player's handbook at page 53. What that does is you can see how it grows. You get a certain amount of spell slots, You get a certain amount of spells that you know, which you can interchange.
Yeah, so every time you level up, you can switch out what spells you know. This is really nice because, I mean, you start off with 6, and eventually once you hit 20, you're going to be at 22 spells between your spells and your cantrips. So they don't have a ton of the higher level slots, but you do get, you know, one of at least a 9 and an 8. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, think about what a 9 and 8 does. These are
really brutal spells, especially once you get the mystical secrets abilities, and now you can pull into other classes. And as long as you can cast a spell, you can grab it, so you can be grabbing some pretty nasty spells. I mean, eventually, once you get high enough, you can be grabbing Power Word Kill.
Oh, God.
Why not?
Yeah. Makes sense. And the great thing is, it gives you a little bit of the aspect to not just be a utility spellcaster, but you can do anything in this aspect.
Yeah, I mean, you can. A lot of the Bard spell list itself, you know, is more focused on, you know, utility and stuff, but the mystical secrets aspect is really nice because that is, yes, where you can augment this with some, you know, do I want to go full healing? Do I want to go this full kind of, you know, illusion, messing with people's mind aspect?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different aspects, or a lot of different avenues you can go, rather.
So since this is the first time we're talking about spellcasting, I'm going to actually mention a little bit about how spellcasting DC and spellcasting attack mod works. So spellcasting DC is 8 plus your proficiency, and in this case, because charisma is your basis for your magic, it's your charisma modifier. Spellcasting ability, in order to get your attack mod for your spells that you're casting, it is your proficiency plus your charisma modifier. So if your charisma modifier is a +3 and you have a +2 to your proficiency, your spellcasting ability is a +5 to basically hit somebody with a spell. So we've talked a little bit about spells because that's obviously the bread and butter for any magic user.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Bardic Inspiration.
I mean, it's kind of a big deal too, you know. It's their class ability, but Bardic Inspiration is you get 1 Bardic Inspiration dice, you know, per long rest, and eventually that'll upgrade to a short rest.
Right.
When you level up. And the size of the dice starts out as D6, I believe, right? Yep. You know, and eventually it'll level up, D8, D10, etc., etc.
To a maximum of D12.
Yeah, the D12 eventually, pretty solid. And so for the next like 30 minutes or something, whatever character you inspire can add that dice to whatever roll that they want.
But only one.
It is only the one, and you know, early on, you're not throwing these out too much. You know, these do really help for, you know, if you want a pivotal roll to get through or to not die. You know, they're really useful, just gameplay wise. But eventually you'll be getting these every round, you know? Yeah. And so once that kicks in, then you can really, that's when the Bard becomes a true, like, you know, support nightmare.
Also, one thing that I did notice is that you can roll your Bardic Inspiration after you roll your D20, but before the DM goes, you fail or succeed.
Yep, so you get to see what you roll. You don't have to roll them, you know, before, and if you get, you know, a marginal or not quite, you know, you get a 10 or something, you're like, hey, you know, let's see what this D8's going to do for me.
Or you roll a 15 and you think, I can do this with a 15. Sad thing is, it's a DC 20, you're screwed anyway. So, at level 2, when you go up in level, now you're starting to see not just the spellcasting side and the singing and the lovemaking and all the things that a bard does, but now you get to deal with the kind of roguish side of a bard. The jack of all trades. I think it's fantastic. So if you don't have proficiency in a skill, you can now take half of your bard level, rounded up or down. I think it's up.
Yeah, it's
down. No, it is down.
It's down? Okay.
Yeah, it is down. Sorry about that, guys. So you round it down, and you get to add that as a extra proficiency to something you're not proficient in. Wow. That means you're already adding 1 to your proficiency in something that you're not proficient in.
Yeah, it's really, really strong, especially defensively too. You know, just getting that bonus on all these different defensive rolls that you usually would not get.
Now, mind you, it's only for checks, but that's not bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
still, that's not
so,
bad.
you know, like fortitude checks and stuff like that.
Well, when they say checks, they think more of like instead of saves, because that's what you're thinking with a dex
Okay,
save.
okay.
A check would be like your
Skill checks and whatnot. Okay.
your performance check.
Yeah.
But I would hope, as a bard, you choose proficiency and perforance. If you
Or
don't,
you
what are you
just
thinking?
choose the satyr class from Theros, and you start with proficiency and performance.
It's true. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot you could do with, but obviously, if you're a bard, you need performance. It's
Yeah, the satyr class is
That's what
actually
you
like a perfect bard.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
It's so good. You get proficiency in persuasion and performance. Plus, you get a proficiency in one instrument of your choice.
Plus, we'll be talking about races in the future, but yeah, I think you'll probably be back when we start talking about satyrs, aren't you?
Satyr bard, huh? That, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. Plus, you know, you got the bonuses to charisma and dexterity. So, I mean, it's like, bard, please play me.
Play me out, bard.
Uh,
So the next thing you do is you get a song of rest, and this is another thing that increases as you go up in level. You basically, whenever you do a short rest, you're rolling a certain amount of hit dice to basically re-up some more hit points, and you're never going to get everything, but now you can say, hey bard, play me to sleep, and as you're resting, this bard's playing his melody and it's giving an extra bit of healing, so it makes that short rest really worth it.
now, is it just one target or is it AoE?
I think if I'm correct, it's everybody that's in the party.
So
It's
yeah,
something
big
that,
AoE heal.
because anyone who can hear, as long as you're not deaf.
Yeah.
Which, if you're playing a deaf party, you remember that sucks. Everybody's getting the healing except
you.
So at third, you get a bard college, and we will be talking about bard colleges in the next video.
Yeah, kind of a big deal for bards. But
But you get expertise. Now this is once again where that rogue play is coming into thing. You get to choose 2 items that you're proficient in, and now you're doubling that proficiency. That is dangerous, but at level 10, you gain another 2 more that you can throw in. So that's a 4 skills that you're basically
I mean,
rolling
at level
massive.
3 on your persuasion checks, I mean, that's just an insane bonus.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we got +4 plus your whatever your proficiency plus the charisma bonus. I mean, that's just at level 3. We're looking at a +10 to your freaking checks. That's wild.
Could you imagine the rogue walking in, haggling with the person for the price of an item, and then you walk in with your amazing persuasion and then just say, hey, I think you can do it this amount.
You
And
can do it even better.
yeah, hey, I like you. Not that shifty fella. So at 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th, you get ability score increases. That means 1 ability can go up by 2, or 2 abilities can go up by 1, or if your DM allows the option, you can decide not to take an ability increase and gain a feat. So those feats, take a look. There are actually some that really work well with a bard. But I'd say, in the beginning, I'd give some increases.
The raw stats, I think, especially early on, are... I mean, that's kind of the bard's thing. Their raw stats, they are kind of good at all these various different skills and stuff. There's very few instances where the bard should be caught flat-footed or not have a tool for the situation. You know, they are kind of the toolbox character for the party in a lot of ways.
I never thought about that. The toolbox is actually a good, yeah, that's actually a great description of it. So at 5th, you gain something called Font of Inspiration. Now this is what you talked about before, where now instead of taking a long rest, you're taking a short rest to refill those bardic inspirations. At 6th, you gain something called Counter Charm. That is awesome.
I mean, how different is this from Counterspell?
So instead of blocking all spells and spell-like effects, I would consider it, if you were to put it in a aspect that we know not just in game but out of game, it's the bagpipe player for the Highlands. As the warriors are going into battle, he's playing his bagpipes in the background, and it's stealing them to get into battle and to really start pounding. It doesn't make the damage better, but it makes their ability to be charmed or frightened a lot less. So basically,
inspires their,
which is just like the bagpipe guy.
That's what these instrument players, have been throughout history for these armies. Keep them in line, help them march, give them inspiration.
You're right. It's everything. It's the drum guy in the United States Army, back in the day. It's funny. We had bards throughout all times, and we didn't even realize it. The 10th level is when things get a little bit interesting.
Yeah, 10th is generally a pretty big spike for classes, and the bard is no exception. So at level 10 is when you get the mystical secrets, and that's when you start to get taking spells from any other spell list. And the cool part is that they count as bard spells for you, but they don't count against your spells known. So you still get all the spells that you normally would get to pull from bard, but eventually, once you hit level 16 here, you're going to get 6 different spells from other spell lists that don't count against that. So eventually at level 20, you really have 28 spells.
Yeah, you're right. The thing is, and just so that you guys know, is you do have to be able to cast a spell.
Yeah, but still, at level 10, you still get to switch them out like normally. And at level 10, you can cast level 5 spells, so that's still a pretty big chunk.
But I don't think you can switch out your magical secret ones.
It doesn't specify you
can't. We'll have to take a look at that.
DM discretion, but...
So DMs, just so you know, and this is one thing, because now that we've mentioned this in the video, it makes it perfect. If you ever have a player that asks a question, you don't really know the answer right away, this is the best answer that I have ever seen. We'll do it your way for now, but after game we will take a look and we will go that way from then on. Or you will make that decision from then on.
So I usually just say, give me a roll for it.
Some people do that. I feel like the rule of cool helps, so if obviously it's going to help the players, I'll give them a little love. It's not going to hurt anything for one game. So, at 20th level, so this is where things always go haywire. Is 20th level, it's very godlike. And this is no exception. Superior inspiration. That's right. You walk into a battle, you have no more bardic inspiration, and you roll initiative. You now have 1 bardic inspiration.
Yep, so every single round you'll be getting a bardic inspiration if you don't have one, which you shouldn't, because you should be spending it.
Yeah, but that is ridiculous.
That's just a crazy amount of buffing every turn, and by that point you have a D12, so let me add a D12. It's really strong. It's really strong, but we're level 20, exactly. You should be freaking outrageous by this point, so...
But not only that, but DMs, if your battle lasts 100 rounds, stop it!
Yeah, why are you doing that to your players, please?
They're probably asleep right now,
that
dude.
That has to be against the Geneva Convention, I think.
Yeah, that's torture. So, we've already talked a little bit about the bard. The next time we talk, we will talk about the colleges. It's really interesting. The one thing I do miss is that bardic information, that gather information that they had, where the bard not only had all these really cool things and played a little bit of a ditty, made the women go a little croon a little bit, but then he came out with this knowledge that just came out of nowhere, like left field. They didn't put that. It's okay. I think they do need to take some things out if they're going to add this much in.
Yeah, I think once we get to the colleges and stuff, you'll see they get a lot of benefits. I think that make up for
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
particularly some, depending on which way you want to go. And we got a new Bard subclass in Theros as well. So.
Yep. And in fact, one of the new Unearthed Arcana is also a Bard class. So take a look at that. And guys, love y'all.
Yep, can't do this without you. So we love doing this, but also we need your financial support to kind of continue on and making this stuff all free, right? So check out our Patreon and see what we can provide to you. There's a lot of different price levels, a lot of different options, a lot of different cool things that we have, and will be coming out for Patreon subscribers in the future. Some custom D&D content and MCP content and whatnot, but. Yep, check our Instagram for updates and information. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, happy trails.